Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Off Base podcast. You can see I'm wearing my 30A shirt today. The podcast that is carefully crafted to remind you to suck on a fat one if you think that you are the only one, because you're not. I am your host. I am the Rocky Mountain no-name Jackass, and it's 37 degrees in the city of Aurora at 8:02 in the a.m. on Monday, April 25th, 2022. In goes the jaw. My wife's least favorite part of the podcast. Here comes a bus to my left, see if he gives me a look. Oh, he's just waiting for me to go. He's probably thinking to himself, this asshole. Who does he think he is? And I think I am a no-name jackass. Woo! Hey! A lot of interesting things to discuss here this morning, everybody. I don't think I did a podcast last Friday, maybe not even last Thursday. I kind of just wanted a little time to myself, I think, to listen to some things that I wanted to listen to off of YouTube, some other podcasts, because I'm not the only one, right? But one of the things that I wanted to discuss was something that happened this morning with stepson, and I certainly feel bad about it. He was doing his laundry last night, but didn't have time to put his stuff in the dryer, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll just put it in the dryer for you when I get up in the morning, because I get up at 5. Well, I've forgotten to do so, and I felt bad about it, without a doubt. But he's the type of fella, and he's still young, and he's reactionary. So I was going through in my head, getting ready to talk to him about the difference between fault and responsibility. But I kind of was just like, well, if he does say anything, I probably won't talk about it now because it's a little too close to when it happened. And I don't think he will later. I did apologize to him twice. But just in general, it's very interesting. You make a leap as a person when you are able to delineate the difference. That's redundant. When you're able to delineate fault from responsibility. Because last night when he started to do his laundry, the little guy also needed his laundry done because he had a couple accidents and his room was starting to stink. He had an accident yesterday when we went to the movie theater, and he's sitting next to me and I'm smelling him. I'm like, oh, Jesus. I said, when you get home, buddy, you got to put all your stuff in the laundry because it's starting to smell. And it's funny. I think I had problems with my bladder until I was about 9. And same thing happened with my stepson, and same thing is now happening with my son. Although my son doesn't wet the bed, but he does just pee himself because he doesn't want to get up and go to the bathroom. I guess I think I probably did stuff like that when I was younger. Maybe, I don't know. But they grow out of it. Probably around this time, around 3rd grade, I think is when I grew out of it. Anyway, to go back to stepson. Well, not really stepson in general. Just something that had me thinking about the difference between fault and responsibility. Like if I have a project that I have to do at work, and for some odd reason, I have to leave the office maybe to go pick up a sick kid or something like that, and that project is due by the end of the day. If I say to one of my teammates, be like, hey, can you finish this project up for me? I got to go pick up blah, blah, blah. And they say, yeah. And then I come home and find out that it never got turned in. Is it their fault that it didn't get turned in? Yeah, because I asked them to do it and they agreed to do it. But is it their responsibility that it didn't get turned in? And the answer to that question is no. It's my responsibility. Mine, all mine. And I'm also at fault for not completing the task earlier or not budgeting time wisely or whatever. But it is ultimately my responsibility. If I don't turn it in, then my manager doesn't say, hey, why didn't this get done? I can't say to him, well, I asked so-and-so to do it and they didn't do it. That's just passing the buck. It's not so-and-so's responsibility. They were doing me a favor. So fault can come with not following through on a favor, which is what happened with stepson and I this morning. But it is his responsibility to get his clothes clean and dry. And like I said, to have that conversation with him this morning was probably too close, too early. But I did say to him last night when he was talking about getting his laundry done, and I wanted to get the little guy's stuff in the laundry first because it smelled so bad. He was saying, well, I gotta get this, I gotta get this washed for school tomorrow. It's like, well, you could have done it on Friday night when you were playing video games the whole night. You could have done it all of Saturday when you played video games all day, except for the time that we went to the gym. But that would have been too confrontational too early, I think, if I would have brought that up again today. But it's just the thing, when you're young, you don't fully grasp the difference between fault and responsibility. This whole episode just had me thinking about my own evolution as a person. And there was a point in my 20s, like in my mid-20s, where I stopped blaming my parents for everything. Well, I'll tell you this much. One thing I learned in college was that if I'm going to loan somebody money, like if somebody says, hey man, can I get $5 for blah, blah, blah? When you're young, you give people money and they don't pay you back. You're like, hey, the fuck, man? I learned in college that if I'm going to give somebody money, I'm not going to see it back. If they give it back, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. Right? And in high school, fuck, I never relied on, like, especially with, like, if we had a group project to do for some kind of assignment, whatever it was, I never relied on anybody else because I knew that they wouldn't do the job up to the same standards that I would do it. So going through high school, I really didn't place much fault or ask people favors on stuff like that. I took big responsibility for my own grades and education because I didn't want them tarnished by people who I knew would not follow through. So it wasn't until college, like at graduate school, my mid-20s, where I stopped blaming my parents for my decisions. That's a big one, man. That is a big one. Where you're like, fuck, it's not their fault. I have a choice to make. Yes, they have colored my choices throughout my life. And I'm not saying my parents did a bad job at all. They did a fucking phenomenal job, I think. It's just the psychology that I think everybody goes through as they continue to go through life. Because you don't know how to communicate when you're young, because you're not taught how to, really. We learn all these facts and stuff, but we never learn how to deal with what's going on inside of us and how to express that in the most healthy manner. So it's kind of like, okay, you're going through high school and you got all these hormones raging. You don't know how to talk about your feelings. And in the time period that I grew up in, my feelings, a lot of them got bottled up or pushed down, never to return again. But, you start to go through college in your 20s and you're kind of taking out that unresolved anger on people until at some point it kind of overflows. It just busts out and it's like, wait a minute, it's not these people's fault that I'm in the situation that I'm in. It's my fault. I can make different decisions. That's a big realization. So one of the things that was stopping me from talking about that issue more with my stepson this morning is, one, he wasn't going to be in a mood to receive it, but he's also not ready to understand it yet. The difference between fault and responsibility. That's a big one. Big one. I think at that point, when you get to that point in your life and you're able to do the delineation, I think that's when you truly start to experience regret. And regret, I don't think, is a bad thing. I really don't. But when you look back and you say to yourself, oh man, I could have done that differently, versus, oh, well, I wish that happened differently. It's not that. It's not about wishing that it happened differently. It's just knowing what you know now and looking back and saying, oh shit, I should have done that differently. Taking the ownership of it. I should have done something. That's responsibility. And it strengthens you as a person. Builds your character, I think. But what do I know? I'm just some no-name jackass, right? All right, so let's move off of that particular topic, even though it was pretty prominent this morning. And I thought that I did, the best that I could in the situation, which was to apologize. Okay, on to what happened over the weekend. Great fucking weekend, absolutely phenomenal. My wife got back from her temporary duty in San Antonio at about 5:30 on Saturday night, and I was very happy to see her, and she said she was happy to see me. And I think she was. And I ended up making started out with chopped up bacon, ham, and sausage as my base, and then threw in some shallots and garlic and a bay leaf, and then about a half a cup of white wine, and let that cook away a little bit, and then threw in 3 chopped tomatoes. And here comes the coup de grace, everybody. After the tomatoes had softened, then I threw in about 3 pounds of mussels and clams. Oh shit! And put that over linguine. So my wife had a very delicious meal to come back to, which I was happy about, because I love making food for her because she loves to eat. And it's amazing how well she maintains her 125-pound frame, because she eats good during the week, which is what I'm going to do. I'm fucking hungry. I am certainly going to be eating well this week because we ate like shit yesterday. So Saturday night, after we finished the pasta, we watched the Batman, with the new one with Robert Pattinson, because I was fucking raving about it, because she was asking us, when we sat down to eat, what we did during the week while she was gone, and one of the things that came up was that we watched the Batman on Tuesday, and I talked about it last week on the podcast, just how impressed I was with that movie. Matt Reeves was the writer and director and producer. Watch out for that name, people, going forward, because that guy knows how to make movies. And the fact that he had Michael Giacchino along with him to write the score, to compose the music, it was a phenomenal combination. I'll tell you that much. So anyway, we did end up watching the Batman, and then the next day, we were just kind of cold chilling. My wife said something the night before about going out to breakfast, because we haven't done that before. And I said, hey, why don't we go see a movie? When is the last fucking time we went and saw a movie? And you know when that was, people? It was like 2-3 years ago. No, probably 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we actually went to a movie theater, bought a ticket, sat down with our big fucking plate of nachos or popcorn, and watched a movie. So we had tickets to the 1 o'clock show of what was it? The Bad Guys. Is that animated film? It's pretty good. But the fact that we actually got a chance to sit down in a theater and watch a movie was so phenomenal that we bought tickets for a 3:30 show to The Secrets of Dumbledore. It was just so fun to be out in a theater. It was so cool. But we really did eat like shit. And initially, all I thought I was going to eat was the hamburgers that we got for our first show. And we were trying to pass the fries and shit to the kids. And we did. Like, my wife got tater tots, so my stepdaughter wanted the tater tots, and I got some, what do they call it? Loaded French fries, because my stepson was going to eat those. But then my son's sitting next to me. He got chicken nuggets, or chicken tenders and fries, and he's not eating the fries. And I'm like, fuck. So I started eating the fries, dipping them in ranch dressing. Oh, it was fucking delicious, man. And then my stepdaughter, she didn't eat her chicken, bacon, mac and cheese. And I started chomping on that. And I was like, oh, and I had 3 beers the whole time when we were there. Not 3 beers for the first show, but 3 beers spread out over both shows. And then for the second show, I got nachos for my stepson and popcorn for my son. I was snacking on those as well. But oh my god, I ate like shit. Although I think I had, I think I had eggs and avocados in the morning. Avocado and eggs. I think I did yesterday morning. I gotta pee too. Drinking more decaf coffee. I told you all last week. My plan was to reduce the amount of caffeine that I'm drinking in the mornings. So I started off the morning with my Wild Mountain Blueberry. But now I'm on my second cup of decaf, which is fucking delicious. Yeah, that's really nice, man. I am dangerous. Top Gun, by the way. Which, speaking of Top Gun, when we were there, there's going to be some good movies coming out, and we want to go back to the movies because we haven't been to the movies in 2 years. One of them's Top Gun Maverick. It's so funny too, because the trailers for that originally came out in 2020. That is so fucking weird. That's weird. 2 years later, they're finally going to release it in the theaters. God damn. And then we got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And then in July, Thor, Love and Thunder. Can't wait for that. Thor's my favorite of the Marvels. Although I have much admiration for the Iron Man because he doesn't have superpowers. All his shit is up here. It's because of his intellect and his knowledge that he's able to defend and avenge the way he does. But the way in which they crafted the Thor movies, the Thor character, the Thor stories, I mean, you can't go wrong. In my book, Kenneth Branagh started it off. He directed the first Thor. Thor: The Dark World obviously was not that good. But you get to Ragnarok and you got, what's his name? Taika Waititi, I think. Who's the guy who directed it? He's also directing Love and Thunder. Oh, man. Can't wait. That guy makes good movies. Taika Waititi, Matt Reeves. These are the new up-and-comers, man. These guys are going to make some names for themselves. Looking forward to it. Other than the fact that I have to pee and am hungry, stepson and I are in our final fucking week of phase 3. We got the pool routine today. Wednesday will be pushed. We normally do it on Thursday, but we're going to do it Wednesday because Homeboy has got a concert. He plays the clarinet. So he'll be doing that. And then Saturday will be our last leg day. And then it's on to the Murph month, motherfuckers. How do you like that for alliteration? Woo! Nature Boy tribute. Other than that, man, just pretty happy with the way things are going. The only thing that kind of scares me right now, because as a parent, you always have some kind of anxiety, is what's going on with the financial markets. So I'm about to make the turn back here on base, and we'll close the podcast down with a slight discussion of the financial markets. And I'm worried for my wife, although I think for the most part that her financial advisors have her in foreign stocks, and foreign currencies should in the long run do well against the dollar, which means foreign stocks will as well. The dollar is looking like it is at the point where it is going to break out to the upside and just wreak havoc on the global economy. And then most likely what will happen is the Federal Reserve will print even more money than they did in QE4 after COVID and send the dollar into the fucking toilet, which will then wreak havoc on U.S. investors and just the United States citizens in general. It's building. It's been coming for a long, long time. But we're going to be in trouble when the bond market breaks. It's on the verge of doing it. A lot of the experts are saying it may not happen just yet. We're seeing bond rates rise, which means the value of bonds goes down, which means there's competition for stocks, and that's the reason why stocks got hit so hard last Thursday and Friday. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
You know, I'm doing okay.
Well, I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. So yeah, the markets got hit hard, almost down 3% in a day. Got hit really hard on Friday. And are flirting with I think it's February lows, late February lows, maybe early March lows. And if they do break and go lower, man, whoo. And if you see a subsequent move in the bond market, we will actually run the risk of a crash. And in my 401k, I've been in cash for a while because I haven't trusted any of these moves that the market's making. And if we start to see a significant crash, man, I'm putting all my 401k to work because that's going to be the buying opportunity right there, boy. But what the hell do I know? I'm just some no-name jackass. I thought after the first COVID drop and we had a rebound off the bottom, I was like, all right, this thing's going to roll right back over because of how leveraged up the entire economy was, how much money the Fed was printing. But what I didn't recognize in my naivete is that the amount of money that was thrown at the system back in March of 2020, actually the money started flowing in June, but they announced it in March and April. It just baffled me. I didn't realize that money managers were like, oh yeah, well, the Fed's behind it all, so let's just throw our money right into stocks. But at some point, that relationship is going to break. The Fed's going to throw too much money at the system. The bond market is going to be like, fuck you. And then the stock market will follow. And gold will explode. Gold and silver, all the precious metals, all the commodities will explode once the dollar starts getting hit. And what's fascinating right now is that as strong as the dollar is against other currencies, gold and oil in particular, and silver have been holding up extremely well in that environment, which just tells you that, okay, if we start to get a weak dollar, good Lord, those things are going to take off like rocket ships. So let's close that little discussion down right now because we are on base. We're well into base, and it's Monday, and we got a strong week ahead of us here, the last week of April, and I'm wishing everybody a good one moving into the month of May. So I'll smell you guys tomorrow.